Hello, and welcome to Protect Your Healthcare Organization from Ransomware Attacks. Today's webinar is sponsored by Rubrik and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event. Now, before we get to today's great content, we do have a few housekeeping items that will help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in our webinar control panel. Not only will we have team members responding to questions during the live event, but we'll have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we'll discuss in greater detail some of the top questions that you have. That Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues that you might experience. A browser refresh will fix most audio, video, or slide advancement issues, but if that doesn't work, just let us know in the Q&A and we'll provide further technical assistance. Second, in the handout section of your webinar control panel, you'll find that we're offering several resources, and I'd especially like to call your attention to a link to get started with Rubrik. There's also a link to the Actual Tech Media Guerrilla Guide Book Club in there, which is Actual Tech Media's great printed resources on technology topics, as well as a link to the ATM Event Center, which has our calendar of upcoming events. So I encourage you to access those resources now and share them with your friends and colleagues. Third, at the end of this webinar event, we will be awarding a $300 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. The official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. And finally, one of the best benefits of this event is the opportunity to ask a question of our expert presenters. So to help encourage your questions, we have a special additional prize for you. That's another Amazon gift card, this one for $50 for the best question. At the end of the event, we'll look at all the questions that come in, pick out the very best one, and contact that prize winner. So with that, let's get to today's fantastic content. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our presenters today. We have Christina Avrianova, who's Principal Product Marketing Manager at Rubrik, and we have Zubin Talavia, who's Advisory Sales Engineer at Rubrik. So I'm going to turn things over to Christina to get us started.
Webinar, Protect Your Healthcare Organizations from Ransomware Attacks. It took one email. An employee at the University of Vermont Medical Center clicked on a file in an email from their homeowners association, and that mistake has led to a series of unfortunate events. The hospital became a victim of a cyber attack. The rest of the hospitals within that network also became victims, including one of the largest hospitals in the state in Burlington. Very, very sad situation because of that attack, the hospitals were not able to perform surgeries. They had to postpone care and treatments, including treatments to cancer patients. Hello from me. My name is Christina Avrianova. I am on the product marketing team here at Rubrik, and joining me today is Zubin Talavia, an advisory sales engineer at Rubrik. Today, we would like to talk to you about what we see in healthcare, what is happening in the industry. We will then introduce Rubrik Security Cloud, and we'll show you a live demo of Rubrik Security Cloud. We would like to then share a few success stories, and then we will open the floor for live Q&A. So what do we see in healthcare? It's all about patient care. When I want to communicate with my doctors, I use the patient portals. It's very convenient for me. I can quickly send an email to my doctor, hey, we need to send a referral for my son's treatment. I can ping any of my doctors, say, hey, this and this is going on. Do I need to see you? Do I need to come see you? Can we perhaps have a telehealth session? Reality is that many healthcare organizations and providers are going through an ongoing transformation of the way they deliver their care to patients, and patient portals, wellness application, myriad of clinical applications, remote patient monitoring. Those are just the things we now expect out of our healthcare providers. At the same time, though, those providers are facing a relentless barrage of cyber attacks. And in fact, 73% of total data breaches in the first half of 2022 targeted healthcare providers. And there are unfortunately many stories than the one we heard at the beginning. And those, as we heard in the story, the implications are painful. Yes, surgeries are postponed and treatments are postponed, and the patient care is interrupted. But there is also another downside. Now, those cyber attacks come with a record high price tag, 10 million on average and more. And unfortunately, many healthcare organizations choose to pay the ransom so they can quickly go back to their business, so they can quickly go back to their patients. Some of them know that their recovery can take months and they cannot afford that. So it's just easy to pay the ransom. Reality is that if you want to create trust with your patients in this digital health space, because this transformation will continue, we as patients expect nothing less. You need to prioritize the protection of our data. You need to prioritize protection of patient data, yes. And what I'm going to say is nothing new. You have to protect the electronic healthcare systems, the Epics, the Meditechs, the Cerners of the world. You have to secure the volumes of unstructured data, all these MRIs, PACS images, and so forth. Safeguard, the cloud workloads. And at the same time, you cannot forget about compliance because you operate in a heavily regulated industry. Sensitive data, patient data cannot be left exposed, or not everybody can have access to this type of data. And you need to continuously monitor for those, for ransomware malware. If and when a ransomware attack happens, you should be able to recover fast. And in fact, you should always be ready for any type of a disaster or cyber recovery. The good news is that here at Rubrik, we are your partner and we help you deliver uninterrupted patient care with Rubrik Security Cloud. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. First, I want to tell you how we help you achieve data resilience. Well, it's because we have from design, the product was designed with an immutable file system. That file system comes with an intelligent data lock. So the data is held for more than 7 days beyond the last admin action. We also have a retention log that it needs two people to approve a change in any of the retention policies. So you always know you have plenty of data available for recovery. Access is very much control. We have granular roles-based access, and of course, mandatory and natively enforced MFAs and TLTPs. The product of the Rubrik Security Cloud also gives a logical air gap, so the data is undiscoverable with NFS and SMB network protocols, and encryption is everywhere at rest and in flight. And as I mentioned earlier, it is immutable by design. We have a proprietary append-only file system that does not allow for the data to be changed, deleted, or modified. And with the 3 pillars of Rubrik Security Cloud, data resilience, data observability, and data remediation, we allow you to protect that data wherever it lives, across on-premises, in the cloud, or in SaaS applications. The enterprise data protection will protect your Epic, Medicare, and Cerner EHR systems, as well as many of your databases. You can secure your petabytes of PACS images that live on your NAS devices with NAS Cloud Direct. Better yet, you can discover what type of NAS data you have, where you have it, which one you need to back up, which you need to archive. And the best thing is you can do that with a great performance and scale, and we'll show you about it a little bit later. We also allow you to safeguard your cloud workloads in any of the AWSs or Google Cloud or Azure, and of course protect the critical and popular Microsoft 365 suite of products. Now with data observability, we help you ensure compliance. Data Security Command Center will tell you what is the score of your security posture. How are you able to protect your data? And with threat hunting, you can continuously monitor for ransomware, so you can know if there is a malware hiding in your backups. And sensitive data monitoring will help you meet your HIPAA compliance, because we can tell you if there is some sensitive data, patient data sitting on a folder out there on a server where it shouldn't be. Lastly, with data remediation, if and when there is an attack or a disaster, we can help you orchestrate an patient recovery very quickly. And with threat containment, we can quarantine the data so we can make sure that when you recover, you are not being reinfected again. But I think I've talked for a while, and I think now it's time for a cool demo. So Zubin, take it away.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you for the introduction. So my name is Zubin Talavia. I've been with Rubrik for about 4 years. And what I'm going to do in the next 10 minutes or so is just quickly walk you through the SaaS platform, Rubrik Security Cloud, as it's called, just to quickly show you the features. So what you're seeing right now is the landing page for Rubrik Security Cloud. It's a global dashboard that shows you, the status of your environment, whether it's an on-prem data center, what you're protecting, whether it's in the cloud, with any cloud workloads like AWS, RDS, or GCP workloads, which we can natively protect within the cloud itself. Any SaaS platforms offerings like M365, if you want to back up and restore your Exchange Online or SharePoint or Teams, for example, or in List, we can kind of do that natively from here as well. Now, along with data protection, we can also show you more insightful data about your environment. So if you are being hit by a ransomware attack, we can kind of flag that as an anomaly and can investigate that further. We can also scan your data for sensitive information that you may have in an environment like PII, PCI, HIPAA information. And then we also have the ability to set up application blueprints or recovery blueprints, where you can actually fail over and fail back entire applications from one data center to the other data center. So now just looking at the overall screen, setting up policies, viewing reports is very straightforward. If I want to just go in and see what's my status of my data centers in the US, just clicking on it will take me to the page for those clusters. And I can either click on individual clusters to see that, or I can set up a global policy that will then be used across various clusters. Setting up policy is pretty straightforward. All I need to know is I can choose what data types I maybe want this for, choose the frequency, daily backups maybe for 30 days. And then I can choose whether I want to do archiving. I can choose different archiving locations based on the clusters that I have. Whether it's AWS, Azure, GCP, or our Rubrik Cloud Vault, which is our immutable copy in the cloud, can be used for this as well. And then I can either choose that, I can choose the archive. If I want to replicate the data, give it a name, set the policy. Once I create that policy, I can now easily take that policy and assign it to any objects that I want. I can now see a global view of all the objects in my environment that I have protected, whether it's different hypervisors, different physical or virtual machines, Windows, Linux, different applications, so databases as well. And I can now choose, let's say, for example, I want to protect a couple of VMs, whether by clusters or tags. I can just kind of go in here, choose the virtual machines, click on Manage Protection, choose the policy that I just created, and I'm on my way. Very easy and straightforward to create policies and manage your entire environment from a single pane of glass through the Rubrik Security Cloud. I can also view events globally. I can see reports globally as well. So I can kind of report across entire enterprises or even have it filtered down by a particular cluster or location. And more than that, what I can also do is see what else is going on in my environment. So I can kind of switch views from a data protection view to more of a ransom investigation view. And in there, as we're backing the data, we can scan your backups for any signs of malware. Once we detect that there is something going on in the environment, we can flag that as an anomaly, and you can investigate that. Once we start that process, you can now see very quickly what systems have been impacted, where in those systems the impact is. So if I were to click on this file servers, it tells me that, hey, it's kind of a suspect that it's a lockbit kind of encryption going on. You have about, a bunch of files deleted, bunch of files added. So it's, we are fairly confident that there's a ransomware attack happening. And then we can kind of, by one more click, we can find out exactly where the files have been added and deleted. So we can kind of, pinpoint the exact location of the encryption. And then furthermore, we can kind of switch views and actually see what kind of data was in those file systems or in the shares that possibly has been exfiltrated or has been exposed. So you can kind of now see that, for example, in my HR department, I have about 17,000 links or sensitive hits that have been exposed. And I can now go in and kind of see what kind of information was it. So there's a bunch of them were USPII, HIPAA related, UK PII. I can now also kind of investigate further and see, what kind of, what users had access to it, when was it last accessed, who had, and when was it last modified. Gives me a good overview and idea of the blast radius of the attack. I can now switch views, kind of see more from a data security command center view of where I stand in the environment, right? What's my data security score? Now, this is kind of the score depends on features that you have turned on in your environment and also across different industries or different customers within your industry. So you can see that, for example, our ransom investigation sensitivity are all turned on, so I'm good there. But my platform security is not that good. Probably the reason being that I don't have all the users using, multi-factor authentication, which is very important to have. I can also now further notice that from my data protection perspective, I'm not using retention lock. So that's why, I'm at risk of, my data being exposed or data being deleted if someone gets access to my credentials and, reduces the retention. Also, I'm not protecting all the objects in the environment. So that's why I'm at risk over there as well. We are adding more and more insights in the dashboard, and you will notice in the next several weeks, you'll have more and more insightful data that can be gleaned and figure out different ways we can improve your security score and be more protected in the environment. So just to recap, what we have here is a true single pane of glass. That's Rubrik Security Cloud. We not only can protect the data effectively, whether it's on-prem, cloud, SaaS workloads, but along with that data, we can also help you improve your security posture. As you know, Rubrik itself is immutable from a file system perspective, but we have layers of protection on top of that, like a 2-person rule, retention lock, single sign-on, which can be turned on, and then we can further blanket that with ransom investigation, which uses AI and machine learning algorithms to figure out if your ransomware attack is going on in the environment, pinpoint the scope of the attack, the blast radius, figure out what kind of data was exposed. And more importantly, once you have all that information, you need to recover that data. Now, recovering that data, you want to recover it to a point in time where you're clean, right? So you don't reinfect yourself. That's where we have threat hunts. We have the ability to run a scan of your backups from the beginning of time, the latest snapshot. using Yara rules, file hashes, or file patterns. And you can kind of choose the cluster you want to protect or you want to scan against. How far back do you want to go? And then once you run the scan and it completes, we can kind of show you a report of where the information is and what kind of threats were detected based on the Yara rule or the file hash, and when it will be safe for you to recover the data. So as you can see here, up to November 8th, anything up to November 8th and after that, you're probably, it's not a good idea because you probably had the malware in the system at that point. Anything before November 8th, you're fine to restore because that does not have the malware. So very quickly, we can kind of help you recover your data to a point in time that's clean, that's safe, and then the risk of reinfection is none. What I'm going to do in the next 5 to 7 minutes is quickly go through a quick demo of NAS Cloud Direct. NAS Cloud Direct is basically meant for petabyte scale NAS unstructured data backup. It's very lightweight because there's no hardware that you need on-prem. All you need is a virtual machine that will then, we can kind of scan your NAS or file shares and ingest the data very quickly using the secret sauce that is in NAS Cloud Direct, and can write to any public or private cloud in the environment. Getting to NAS Cloud Direct, setting up policies and viewing the data is very easy, just like everything else in Rubrik. You can get to NAS Cloud Direct using our Rubrik Security Cloud, which is a SaaS platform. As you can see in the screen here, I have set up a few NAS Cloud Direct virtual machines. I'm going to select the one which says Rubrik NAS NA2. And you can see that there are a bunch of systems have been already added to this particular VM. Now, I can easily add a system quickly by just clicking on this, going through the options here, whether it's Isilon, NetApp cluster, Pure, Cumulo, or if you have some other kind of array or a file system, I can just use generic NFS or SMB. Once I've added that system, and it auto discovers the shares below it, if it's like an Isilon or a NetApp or any of the ones that we have an API for. And then I can kind of quickly go in and see the data. So if I were to go in, for example, and I'm going to the NetApp, I've discovered like, okay, I've got all these different volumes and different servers. I can now, select a particular folder, for example, and then I can either use an existing policy that I have, or I can kind of create a new policy. And creating a new policy is fairly straightforward here. You just go in, choose whether I want a backup or an archive policy, how often, give it a name, how often do you want to run it, daily, weekly, monthly, where do I want to go, where do I want to put it. So if it's a Microsoft Azure or AWS, for example, I can just choose that. I can choose the bucket, whether it's whether it's something that I already created in the East, West, or any of the regions, and then the tier. So as you can see, we support all kinds of tiers, whether it's Azure or AWS or Google, gold tier, hot tier, or even the archive tier as well. And then how long do I want to keep the data for? Once I create the policy, I have I go into my systems here. I can now choose a particular folder that I want to protect, select the policy that I basically wanted to use for this, and I say apply, and that'll start the process of backing up that folder with the policy and saving it in the location for the retention that I chose. Recovering the data is also fairly straightforward and very easy. As you can see, I have selected this particular share here, or this machine here that has data already in it. I can now see that it's been backed up by a policy that was writing to it daily, keeping it for a month. I can now go in, and if I wanted to restore that policy, or data in that policy, I can kind of quickly go in there and kind of recover the data. So let's click on that. And you can see all the timestamps of all the data that was backed up every day. I want to go to the one that was the latest one, for example, and I can kind of choose, let's say, this particular folder. I can click on restore, choose the system, choose the share, to the path. Whether I want to notify any people for person or group for this, and start the restore process. It's as simple and easy as that. And the other thing I can also quickly do with NAS Cloud Direct is the ability to actually run a data discovery portion on the data on my NAS. This is actually pretty cool because even without running a backup or doing a recovery, I can scan my NAS, which are petabytes of data, and I can kind of show you very quickly, what is that state of the data, right? From this particular screen, you can see that I have about 32 terabytes of data on this particular share or NAS that has not been touched for over a year, right? So if that's the case, then why am I backing it up? Why can't I just archive it off and not have to worry about it? From a perspective of restoring the data in case of a DR scenario, you now know that I don't have to recover my 100 or 200 terabytes of data. I just need to recover my 60 terabytes of data because that's the one that's the most used or most modified or most last accessed, right? So if I kind of click on switch to the last access view, I can see that, all right, a bunch of data is being accessed last, so I should recover that, but I don't need to recover some data that is over a year old because I can recover that later. But my main focus should be the data that has been accessed more frequently. So having said that, we also have reports that you can run in your environment that kind of show you, hey, what tasks, what policies, what is going on in the environment. You can search for data within all the backups that you've done. You can monitor the policies, activities, kind of see the failures as well, and very quickly troubleshoot any issues that you may have. All this, again, works without a need for any on-prem hardware. All we need is a virtual machine which scales, which is very highly scalable, actually. So a single virtual machine can help ingest between 3 to 5 petabytes of data. So, and at steady state, obviously, I don't think you're going to be having 5 terabytes of data change every day. So one virtual machine more than covers a vast majority of all customers. And we have larger customers that are ingesting, 12, 15 petabytes of data with just a couple of virtual machines in the environment. So hopefully this gives you a good overview and idea of NAS Cloud Direct and the powerful way it can back up your NAS, your petabyte scale NAS efficiently and effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Zubin. Now, as promised, I would like to share a few customer success stories. We have at Rubrik, we are proud to be protecting the data of over 4,500 customers. And we have customers across any vertical, including, of course, in healthcare. And let me tell you a little bit about UCSF. They were really struggling to protect a lot of their data. They were working with a legacy provider, Commvault. They were not having a good cloud coverage or cloud protection of their cloud workloads. And in general, they had a lot of time dedicated to managing that legacy solution. So with Rubrik, first of all, they were able to see great TCO, but they were able to see 80% of management percent improvement in their management and time savings, and that allowed them to focus on more strategic products. But probably best of all, it's the fact that now their restores went from 4 to 6 hours down to seconds. We have a very similar story with Legacy Health. Again, great improvement in their time management and near zero RTOs, but they were also able to see 50% faster Epic cache restores. So aside from the automation they were able to achieve, and again, the time improvement, they were also absolutely impressed with Rubrik's simplicity, how easy it was to protect all this patient data. And the last example is going to be of Jefferson Hospitals. Again, they use the NAS Cloud Direct solution to protect petabytes of data on their NAS devices. They were very impressed with NAS Data Discover because they didn't really know what type of data they have where. So now with that, they were able to see how the file data was changing, how fast it was changing, where are those changes, so they can have better backup, archival, and retention decisions. Again, with NAS Cloud Direct, you can very quickly move petabytes of data with unparalleled performance, in fact, 10 times better than legacy solutions. And you can send this data to any compatible S3 target, either on premises or in the cloud. And with that, we'd like to thank you for your attention, and we would like to open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Okay, great presentation, Christina, and really informative demo there from Zubin. And actually, Zubin's got to step away, but his colleague Jacob Bryce is standing in for him here for the Q&A. So thanks for standing by, Jacob. So let's look at some of the audience questions that we've got here. This first one, they're asking about epic workloads. Christina, you mentioned those in one of those customer case studies there, but can Rubrik protect epic workloads running on Azure?
Yes, I believe we can protect epic workloads working on Azure. Jacob, do you want to provide a little bit more color around it?
Absolutely. No, thank you guys for having me. So 100%, Rubrik can definitely help protect those workloads running in Azure as well. The Rubrik platform can be used obviously for on-prem workloads as well as workloads running in Azure, AWS, or GCP. So the ability to protect those workloads is kind of universal across any location you're going to run it. So 100% can definitely protect there.
Okay, super. There's one question that I have. You hear so much with ransomware about post-infection extortion attacks and triple threats, and in healthcare, that's even more of a concern, obviously, because of EHR and other compliance-covered data that can be involved. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about the threat containment features for avoiding reinfection that you mentioned.
Yeah, no, I mean, Zubin did a great job showing you guys that. So the ability to search through existing backup sets that we've already ingested and understand, when did that malware or piece of code enter your environment, and be able to isolate that down and help make sure that you only have to do one recovery, not multiples, right? Is definitely a big use case feature by being able to pinpoint down when did that infection first hit the environment. So you're not restoring something that might just reinfect yourself over again. So,
gotcha. Excellent. We've got a question here from Brandon. How does Rubrik compare to other solutions on the market?
I mean, I think we obviously I think we're unique in the market in some of the features we bring to bear as far as how we do some stuff. Our purpose-built kind of model around security with the immutable file system really being built with security in mind is something that obviously a lot of existing solutions weren't built for that. They were built way before ransomware or some of these things were a thought. So the fact that we built with those things in mind definitely gives us an advantage there. And then just our modern architecture of how the software is architected to be a share nothing kind of architecture, truly built to web scale, definitely makes it different than a lot of other products out there.
Okay. All right. Super. So there's another question here from Jeffrey, who's asking, can I block access from foreign countries and also people in other countries that hop through U.S. data centers? I'm not sure if is that something that Rubrik addresses, or is that something that you would look for a partner to address?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things you could do. I mean, I guess you can for the Security Cloud platform, you can set access from certain whitelist ranges if you wanted to make it more secure, and that you basically lock down who can access different pieces to access the SaaS platform part of Rubrik. So there's some stuff you could do with that, but obviously some of the other pieces might be stuff you'd have another partner in your ecosystem help with as well on the network side.
Okay. All right, excellent. Well, Christina, it looks like we've run through all the questions from the audience here today. But if somebody wants to get started with Rubrik or find out more, about your solutions, especially on the healthcare side, what do you recommend?
Obviously, the easiest thing is to go to Rubrik.com. You can watch a lot of other customers' stories across various industries, as well as read many customer health, many other case studies, again, for healthcare and for other industries. We covered a lot here today, but you can go and spend some time reading about the particular capability or feature that you're interested in. Obviously, as Zubin and Jacob mentioned, we do have an immutable file system, and we started and we designed Rubrik with that in the mind. And we gave you all the necessary table stakes in terms to make your data is resilient, is available, that you can ensure you can be back in business or back delivering outstanding patient care. But spend some time to see how our data observability features work, the ransomware investigation, discovery of sensitive data, where does it sit, who has access to it, who is looking at a folder that has certain data, but they shouldn't be looking at that folder. And of course, all the remediation features, right? Orchestrated application recovery, quickly being back in business. Rubrik.com.
Rubrik.com. All right, excellent. Well, Christina and Jacob, thank you so much for your insights here in the Q&A, and Christina, thanks for the presentation, and thanks to Zubin as well for the great demo. Really appreciate your time today and all your insights.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and before we wrap up, we do have one more piece of business. It's the Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the winner of the card today is Caleb McDonald from California. So congratulations to Caleb. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Rubrik again for making this event possible. And thanks as always for attending and for your great questions. That concludes today's event. Have an excellent rest of your day.